Okay, so what I did is I got to the Desmos graphing calculator and I graphed this function. So here's the function 5x squared plus 20x plus 2. So there's your graph. Okay, now what it wants to know is how long the ball was above 17. Okay, so the height, which is y, I want to know how long that was above 17 meters. Okay, so it starts right there, and then I go all the way to right there. Okay, so what I want to know is those 2 points right there. So I want to know when is h17. Okay, so here's my function. I want to plug in 17 for h. Okay, and then I'm going to solve for t. So I'm going to plug in 17 for h and I'm going to solve for t. All right, so bear with me here. So 17 equals negative 5t squared plus 20t plus 2. Okay, so now we're looking for at what time t is the height 17. Okay, and you can solve that either way. You can solve it by factoring, you can solve it by the quadratic formula. I can show you both. Okay, so if I want to solve by factoring, I need to set this equal to 0. So I need to move this 17 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 17 on both sides, and I get 0 equals negative 5t squared plus 20t minus 15. Okay, so now I'm there. Okay, so now from there I want to factor it, so I'm going to do my asterisk method because a is a negative 5. So the asterisk looks like that. I'm going to take a, multiply by c. So negative 5 and multiply by a negative 15, and I get positive 75. That goes up here. Okay, and then b, which is a positive 20, goes down here. So I'm looking at factors that multiply to give me 75, but add to give me 20, which are 15 and 5. So those two factors go here, and then I'm going to put a in these two. Okay, so again, how did I get here? This is a times c, and this is b. So a, which is a negative 5, times a negative 15 gives me a positive 75, and then b is a positive 20. Now I looked at factors that multiplied to give me 75 but added to give me 20, which were 15 and 5. And I took a and put it right here and right here. So now I'm looking at these two, and I'm going to reduce my fractions. So this is 5 divided by 15, that reduces to 1/3. This is 5 over 5, that reduces to 1 over 1. All right, so this is x plus 1, this is x plus 3. Okay, well now I know those are equal to 0 because I said equal to 0. So all I did was factor this into that. If you wanted to multiply these back out, you could. Okay, so now I'm going to set this equal to 0, set this equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0. Sorry. Sorry. This should be a negative 5, negative 5. Okay, so it's negative x plus 1 equals 3. So anyways, doesn't matter. Okay, so I get 1 second and I get 3 seconds. Okay, so what I just found is that at 1 second, going back to my graph, okay, at 1 second, which is right there, I have a point at 117. So then it goes above 17 meters. Well, then at 3 seconds, I have a point at 317 also. Okay, so how long was the ball above 17 meters? I'm just going to take the 3 seconds and subtract by the 1 second. Well, it was above the 17 meters for 2 seconds. So my answer is 2. Okay, so I did all that work to get that answer. So the answer is 2 seconds. Okay, so it was above 17 meters for 2 seconds. Okay, so I told you that I'd show you by the quadratic formula also, which is negative b. Okay, so here we go, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. All right, so here's my formula. Okay, so now I'm plugging that into my quadratic formula. Okay, so negative b, so negative 20, plus or minus square root of b squared, so 20 squared, minus 4 times a, which is a negative 5, times c, which is a negative 15, over 2 times a, which is still negative 5. All right, so now let's do some arithmetic. Let's do some math. So I get negative 20 plus or minus the square root of 400. And then this is a negative 5 times the negative 15. That gives me a positive. and then times it by 4, and I'm just going to put minus 300. Because 4 times 5 is 20, 20 times 15 is 300. I've got a negative and a negative that gives me a positive, and I multiply by this negative again, I get a negative. All right, and then over negative 10. Okay, so now 400 minus 300 is 100. So negative 20 plus or minus the square root of 100 over negative 10. Well, we know that the square root of 100 is 10. So I could rewrite this as negative 20 plus 10 over negative 10. But it's also minus, so I could write it as negative 20 minus 10 over negative 10. So those are two answers. Well, negative 20 plus 10 is a negative 10 over negative 10. That gives me 1. Okay, here we go. And then I've got a negative 20 minus 10, so negative 30 divided by negative 10. Well, a negative 30 divided by negative 10 is a positive 3. Well, guess what? Boom, 3 seconds. All right, so I know that it crossed the 17-foot height at 1 second, and then it crossed back again at 3 seconds. So it was in the air, it was above that for 2 seconds total. So again, the answer is 2 seconds. Hope that helps.